everybody, welcome back to the wood shop. My name is Rick, and this weekend in the wood shop we are going to build this. A little dial indicator gauge so that we can make sure that our miter slots are parallel to our blade. Let's get to it. So, keeping your table saw blade square to your miter slot, or at least parallel to your miter slot, and then ultimately your rip fence is aligned with your miter slot, which is also aligned with the blade. Keeping all that stuff squared away and in line with each other is absolutely critical to being able to make good, repeatable cuts on your table saw. Of course, mine is a DIY table saw. I built this thing myself. I cut in the miter slots, I built the fence, all of that stuff. And so I don't have a lot of the fancy alignment stuff that a table saw would have if you bought it from, say, a DeWalt or Ryobi or even SawStop, right? So how do you, and these techniques are going to apply to no matter what kind of table saw you have. How do you align your miter slots to your blade? There's a couple of ways that you can do this. There are tools that you can buy. The cheapest thing that you can have is, like, if you have a combination square, you can use the 90-degree portion of your square. You can line that up with your slot, see, and then you can rotate this around. And what you're looking for is you're looking for a tooth to touch the very end of your sliding ruler. And then if you bring this back around, you can take the same tooth, and what you'd like is there to be just barely contact in the front, just barely contact in the back. Mine is out, just a fuzz, right? So in order to compensate for that, I did do some work on the bottom side of my table, so I've got it set up so now that I can adjust it. But I don't like this. There are others that you can buy. There are other alignment gauges that you can buy online that actually use a dial indicator. And the reason why I don't like this, it has nothing to do with cheap, janky, whatever. This is perfectly fine. You can get really accurate adjustments to your blade using a sliding combination square. But the ones that you see online actually use a dial indicator. They have a rail that rides in your miter slot, and then there's a T that affixes to your dial indicator, and then your dial indicator will push up against the blade, and as you move it back and forth, it will tell you how many or how close your miter slot is to the blade. So what I want to do today is I want to build one of these. I want to make one. There's a few online that I've found, and they're not super expensive, but they're expensive enough. Some of the really good ones are between $75 and $100. And for whatever reason, I have a piece of maple here that I had cut, or it's probably a cut off from something else that I was working on, but it fits perfectly in my miter slot. I don't know how I could have planned that any better, so I'm going to use this. I'm going to cut it down so that it rides just proud of the tabletop surface. I'm going to cut this down, and we're going to build one of these miter slot T adjustable fittings that we can put our dial indicator on and be able to align our blade to our miter slot. So let's get to it. Now that we've got this piece cut, and boy, that was an adventure cutting that. I need to do something different than using this, because boy, oh boy. Yeah. Anyway, now that I've got this cut, and it is just proud of the miter slot there, we need to figure out how much of this we need in both directions, right? So what I'd like to have is on the dial indicator. I'd like the dial indicator to be in such a position that, you know, we have to in order to use a dial indicator properly, you want to make sure that you get at least one full revolution of the needle, so that no matter which way it goes, it can accurately show you how much movement there is. On the blade, we shouldn't have much movement at all, you know, a couple thousandths of an inch. So if we make sure that we're in far enough that we get at least one full rotation of the needle, then we should be fine. So what that's going to do is that's going to put our dial indicator roughly here. So we'll make a little mark on our tabletop there. So roughly here is where the mounting hole for the dial indicator is going to go. What I want to do then is I want to give myself enough. Slide. I want to make sure that I've got enough of this that we can mount the dial indicator to it. What I'm thinking about doing for that actually I might have to turn this way, which would be fine. We could mount this way, and then we could mount this way, and that would be fine. So if I mount it this way, how about we do roughly there, and I want to make sure that we get enough length that we can slide it back and forth for other things. You know, maybe we can use it on the bandsaw or something like that as well. So if we go to about here, yeah, if we go to about here, how much does that give us? That gives us, oh wow, that's dead on 5 inches. I don't think I can do that again if I tried. Dead on, 5 inches. So we'll cut that off at 5 inches. We'll use the rest of this as the part that goes in the D-track. And I think we can piece something together here that will allow us to actually measure our blade. Pieces are all cut. I've got some hardware here. It's time for assembly. So what we've got is we've got our one piece 3/4 inch wide by the depth of the miter slot. We've got our piece here with a couple of holes drilled in it that we're going to use to mount our dial indicator to, and then we've got a couple of bolts of various lengths. This one here, the longer one, will be to join these two pieces together. The shorter one will join the dial indicator to the bar. So let's go ahead and start to assemble this. Now I countersunk the hole in the back of the miter slot bar, and I did it off center so that it will grab the hex head. That way we don't have to worry about having a wrench on the back side of there or a socket or anything. This is set up so that it will be this way. So this hole here is set up so that the dial indicator rests directly on the top of the bar. So we want to make sure that we put that in the right way. So we'll go like that. Get ourselves a washer and a nut and tighten this down. The beautiful thing about this is that this doesn't have to be square. It can be skewed, and as long as the dial indicator can get a true ride against the blade, then everything should work out just fine. So let's see. There we go. That's assembled, and we'll get it close to square. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, but we'll get it close. All right, that ought to do. Take this, we'll get ourselves a washer. That and like this. Perfect. Tighten that down. Now this, and that rides in the slot like that. That's perfect. Now if we come in here like so, and we rest that dial indicator on the blade, right? Okay. So based on what we're seeing here, we're at the 0 mark right now. And as I move this back towards the back of the blade, you can see that the needle moves, but then towards the back of the blade here, it actually drops off quite a bit, like looks to be around 5 thou. And that's not terrible, right? That's within a margin of error, especially for a homemade table saw. I think we can get it closer. But I'm going to call this a success. There are plenty of these jigs like this available online. I think I just proved that you can successfully build your own. So Thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. If you feel like I've earned it, make sure that you hit the subscribe button. Also, don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you know it every time that new content comes out on the channel. If you really feel like I've deserved it and you'd like to help support the channel financially so that we can do little projects like this, head on over to our Patreon page. The link for that will be down in the description below. If you do join as a Patreon patron, then you will absolutely be recognized at the end of every video, and also there will be other perks there like SketchUp drawings and such like that for the projects that we work free of charge for those who are supporting us on Patreon. We also have a merch store. You can get hats like this, t-shirts, stickers, all that good stuff. And eventually we're going to have plans for sale too for some of the projects that we've been working on. But once again, I do hope that you enjoyed this project. I think it was a success. Thanks for watching.